stars with the stars glowing above. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. Before they sold the house and moved, you hid more letters inside the walls. You swore you'd never share your secrets, so if only walls could talk. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. Fuzzy memory dying over and over and over and over and over. Fuzzy memory dying over and over and over and over and over. Remember in the clearing, darling, you dropped your lighter onto the grass. You lit that fire that kept burning brighter, and you ran and you ran and you ran. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again. It's like a video game, a 90s video game, a fuzzy memory dying over again.
Say it once, hallelujah. Girls and the boys in the front, it's a crew, yeah. I know you told me that you wanna dye your hair blue, yeah. So go ahead, nobody gon' tell you what to do, yeah. World's turning too fast, we should stop it. Pretty face, pretty place in the magic, yeah. I run away just to have it, yeah. I've been designing, do you see my color palette? And if I want it, gotta have it, it's a habit. I keep it going, going, going. I can feel it when you buy, feel it from the past life, yeah. I've been designing, do you see my color palette? And if I want it, gotta have it, it's a habit. I keep it going, going, going. I can feel it when you buy, feel it from the past life. Next day I'm up at 2:15. Not much to do, so I look to you, you calling me the boy with the dragon tattoo. So much going on, but not much to do. World's turning too fast, we should stop it. Pretty face, pretty place in the magic, yeah. I run away just to have it. Yeah, I ran pretty far to the back here, where there's houses, made of glass and they cracking. I'm zoom out, this cup of you got me stacking. I'm woke up in the streets, I'm at, yeah. It's like half of us won't make it. Baby, do what you can, yeah. Try to take it, but you see me, we don't really have to fake it. I didn't have the life I wanted, I had to make it, I've been designing, do you see my color palette? And if I want it, gotta have it, it's a habit. I keep it going, going, going. I can feel it when you buy, feel it from the past life. I've been designing, do you see my color palette? And if I want it, gotta have it, it's a habit. I keep it going, going, going. I can feel it when you buy, feel it from the past life. If I want it, gotta have it, it's a habit. dancing around you like it's magic. Yeah, you are a reflection of the beauty and the aura and the sex in us. Yeah, if it never meant a thing to us, yeah, we could be enough. We don't have to run. I put color in my hair, saturate this love. Yeah, we could be enough. We don't have to run. Yeah.
Whoa. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can probably hear my cat, who, for some reason, maybe because I'm a masochist, I decided, like, let's do dinner time for the cat, like, right at the same time that I'm going to be, like, needing to have it be really quiet. And she's, like, the loudest thing that exists on Earth. But for everybody that is here, thank you for being here nice and promptly. My name is Chris. I go by Voices Chris on social media. Hell Yes is all about celebrating the creative process and all of the people who are a part of it every step of the way. Mondays, we do a A&R based stream that is around released music and A&R research concepts. Basically, you want to learn how to do A&R or what A&R people are thinking about. That's a great stream for you to come and check out. Wednesdays, we listen to unreleased demos and talk about the creative process as a community. Super fun. Honestly, something that you should definitely come through sometime, Sam. But Fridays, I get to interview people that I admire from all different parts of the industry. And our guest tonight is the singer, songwriter, artist, awesome human, Sam DeRosa. At any time, if you have any questions for Sam, please share them in the chat. But and I'll try to fit it into conversation. In fact, we'll definitely make sure we fit it into conversation. But I remember meeting you at Old Glory with your former manager Teddy years ago. I mean, do you remember those times where we could all like physically be in the same place, and there were these things called concerts and parties and stuff? Like, do you remember any of that?
No, feels like a past life now. But I realized from this craziness that I love being home. I don't mind it at all, I have to say. But bars feel so weird now. Thinking about like sharing drinks with your friends and stuff, and how nowadays you could be arrested. You know what I mean? It's like, things just feel so like a whole nother life, really.
I mean, it's insane. And I mean, before we get into the whole nother life and like where we are today, like I love starting these streams off, like going back and talking about where you started growing up in New York, right? And I wanted to know what it was like, and try to leave music out of it if you can. Like talk about the people, talk about the sights, the smells, the food, like the culture that was around you growing up. Like I want to know about it.
You're definitely an A&R. I love that. Tell me about the sights, the smells.
Tell me about the sights,
like,
the smells. Yeah.
Yeah.
The emotional things.
Yeah.
Because I can't talk about anything technical, so.
Yeah, no, none of that. It's actually very easy for me to not talk about music, which is fantastic, I think. But the truth of the whole New York upbringing for me is that my parents were musicians. So my mom tried out for my dad's band when they were kids. And so they had been dating ever since, got married, had like an army of musical children. So my life was very involved in it, which is why I always wanted to keep it separate in some way. But my life was like everything you see in a movie where there's that big family table every Sunday. And we call it gravy. People call it sauce, or, you know. I was like a fake Italian. Like I say mozzarella instead of like mozzarella, you know, like regut. I came home for Christmas and I was like, hey guys, you guys want to get like mozzarella with it? And my dad just goes,
Who are you?
that's not my brother. Like he was like, what's, and I was like, I just feel weird saying mozzarella. Like they've made memes about us. Like we can't, Dad, we can't do that anymore. But it was just loud. It was always loud and crazy and fun. And everything always just smelled like tomatoes and garlic and like deliciousness from the kitchen. And it was just that New York City was far enough away where I had a cul-de-sac in the backyard, but we could hop on the train and go at any time because my dad worked for the railroad. And every weekend my parents would leave us with a babysitter and they would go play gigs. And so my very, very early on, like my whole life truly has been music. So to talk about it from a sense level, it really was like I'd be put to bed in my like, you know, Aladdin and Jasmine pajamas or whatever the theme was of the Disney princess that time. She was my favorite though. And we'd go upstairs to bed and it was a small house, you know, like there was an army of kids. So there's no way we came from money by any means. And they would put us to bed and then you would just hear do, do, do. And my parents were practicing and you'd hear, it was Be My Baby, if anybody knows that old song. But we'd sneak downstairs and we'd like go by the door. And it became this just tradition of my mom and dad. They couldn't afford a rehearsal space, but they had to rehearse in the basement and the drummer would come and they'd put the kids to bed, but we'd be there. So for as early as I can remember, it really did revolve around music. And if it didn't, it was food. Always, it was food. Like I could eat for the rest of my life and just be very happy.
Oh man. And I feel like we definitely share that in common with like, you know, my family's like French and Italian roots. I feel like it's just like you said, like having parents who are like musical, it's almost impossible to not like have music come into the equation. But like if there's those roots in it too, it's like you can't help but talk about food, right? So
yeah, there's always one or the other.
But I mean, that's wild. Like, so they would balance. So you said your dad worked on the railroad and then they were just gigging on weekends or what? Like,
so my mom she still does. She does a like nonprofit with her time during the day because she's not, you know, she didn't have her degree because she had us, but she would get hired by like the local Catholic school that I went to teach music. And then she would do like, we would sing at children's hospitals. And every Christmas Eve since I'm 8 years old, we sang at a nursing home, except this year because of COVID. So she spent her time working with kids and doing vocal coaching or theater auditions. And it kind of just was all over my house all the time. My dad was classically trained, self-taught, but classically trained guitarist. I mean, he learned everything. He taught his friends about seventh chords. No one knew about any of that stuff. You know, he was the man. And he got a job for Metro North Railroad when my older sister was born. And that was how he was able to put food on the table. And then for extra money, they would be able to still play gigs on the weekends because they needed the money, but also it was a way for them to still do their thing when they had little ones. So it was cool.
That's awesome. And it's cool to see, just to see like the hustle of it all too, you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny to think about like how different of a time it was too. And just like economically, you know? So, and before getting into, and I know I keep delaying the music thing cause we're going to talk a lot about it. This whole stream is about that, but it's also about being human and all of the like very real things that I think we forget about or that we just don't talk about in between everything. But like, I wanted to talk about that, but then also the fact that you have been writing songs for a long time, but do you remember that very first time that you wrote a song? Like, do you remember what went into that? Oh, you cut out for a second. Can you hear me?
So you froze too. I missed you. What was the question?
The question was like this is literally bridging the gap between you and then your songwriting stuff. What do you have a memory of like that first song that you wrote and like that just what was going on in your head at the time of like writing? Like, did you realize you were writing a song or like what was the thought process behind that?
So because I was a middle child, I like needed to find my thing, if that makes sense. If anyone watching this is a middle child, you know exactly what I mean. And I started with poetry. I always wrote like stories and poems and all these things. And my grandma passed away in the 3rd grade and I wrote a poem called Goodbye that I realized was like a song, but I didn't want to like put melody to it because I just thought that it was a poem. And then my sister was like really struggling with the loss of my grandma. And I remember trying to capitalize on it by getting her to like start a band with me and I'd be the songwriter because I thought she was the better singer. And I wrote a song called I'll Be There, which has been very used as a title, but I still have the notebook. I actually found it recently and I remember the melody. I remember the whole thing. It's really crazy. And that was the start of it because I knew from music being in my house that poems could be songs, but initially it was just me needing to get like a diary, but mine always rhymed without fail. It was like from the get.
Man,
from the jump.
So, but, and it's funny that you were saying that you kind of were bringing it to your sister. You're essentially like pitching it to the artist in your mind in the household like already. But then like you kept a lot of these songs and the fact that you were writing, like kind of like, would you say that you kept it a secret or that you kept it to yourself? Mm-hmm. Like, what was the logic behind that? Was it just like, you just were like unsure? Like why keep it to yourself?
I was a theater kid most of my life. I thought I was going to be on Broadway and then I could like branch off. I truly never thought I was good enough. And it sounds so silly to say, I know, but that really is what you think as a kid. Some kids have all the confidence in the world. I love when you talk to kids and they're like, I'm going to be a hairdresser and a doctor and a mom. And you're like, go off, sister. Like, yes, you will. You know, I was not that kid. I was like loud and fun and crazy, but with like actual talents. I always felt very strange. I was really tall and like really skinny and like I just didn't like the way that I looked on stage or in front of people, so I kept everything very in. And I loved theater because I could audition for a part and play somebody else, if that makes sense. I loved it. I loved acting and I loved the idea that I could like put on a costume and then it was over and I could go back to just being like Sam. But for me, the songwriting thing just I could not. It's like the only way. When mediums talk about how like the spirits talk to them or whatever, mine was just, I couldn't not think of something in a rhyme. Since I was a little kid, it was just fun for me. My sisters would make me freestyle rap. Like I thought I had flow. It was just like my joking thing that I just thought was normal for people. So I just didn't think it was good. I thought it was just something, that was my thing. I never thought it was good enough to show anybody. And then after a lot of years of singing like cover gigs, like performances, like county fairs, you know, you get up, or I would do a play. I started getting just so let down by, I would make it this close for the role of Ilsa in Spring Awakening. And I would take the train every morning at 5:30 in the morning and skip school sometimes just to go for it. And one time they told me that I was 2 inches too tall for the costume. And I remember just being like, that's it. And that really was it once. It was for a national tour. And I always was just like, just close and not enough. So I started writing kind of about heartbreak without having been in love yet from that perspective. Still didn't show anyone. And by the time I was ready to show my parents, I was like 15. And I said, hey, I just have this idea of like, when we go to the competition this weekend, if they sing, can I maybe just like bring the piano and do my own song? And my parents were like, you're what? You know what I mean? And I like played it for them. And my mom cried, but I always was just like, well, she's my mom, you know, she has to love me. But I started getting so nervous. I started getting really weird stage fright. Like I started becoming conscious of the fact that I was choosing to get up on stage and do things, even though I felt really insecure. So I just said, if I'm going to do this, I'd rather just do my own thing. Because if I fail, at least it's mine, you know? And that's actually what transitioned it over, why I hid it for so long, really.
And that's wild. And then do you remember what went into writing songs when you were still in your teens, that like maybe some things that you did then that you don't necessarily do now as like somebody who, you know, goes in and you're collaborating with other people? Like, were you collaborating already? Were you just doing it on your own? Would love to know just what that was like.
It was like a secret club with myself at like 10 p.m. after everybody went to sleep. And I had this like tiny little Yamaha. What I did then, because I didn't know anything yet, and I'm self-taught, I'm by no means a piano player, but I can play. Like I can, you know, I always wanted to do it myself, which I realize now my parents just couldn't afford to send me to piano lessons. There was no way. If I wanted to do it, I had to do it. And there was no YouTube. So my dad had taught me a song called Heaven. And it was in the key of C, where all the chords just moved on the white keys. And it was, baby, you're all that I want. Everyone knows that song. And I was like, oh, and so I realized that he just explained that chords are if you skip every other note on the white keys, you're in the key of C. That's all he gave me because he didn't want to trip me up. So I started using that one song because they were the only chords I knew to move them around. and like start figuring out how to put music to my songs. Nowadays, I'm like, you know, key D, 2 sharps, what do you need? I got you, you know, like, what are we in? And I can do enough, but that's really how it started. Is I think the not knowing, to your point of like, what do you bring into sessions now that you didn't then? There's a really big, beautiful feeling that comes with being so naive and knowing only a little, because then all you have really is your imagination and your mind. And sometimes you know too much and you overthink it. I could overthink the insecurity part, but musically I only knew this much. So I just rolled with it, and I was able to be like, oh, that's what I want to say, because I can't think beyond that. You know what I mean? It was cool. And that, if I think about it now.
Man, that's wild. And it's funny that there seems to be this sort of theme that because you're not the first person who's like said that. There's like something really cool in that naivety, and that like having to kind of do a lot with a little. And I always end up bringing, like, growing up in South Florida on the West Coast, not really known for like surfing or anything like that, but weirdly enough, a lot of like the world's best surfers come from places with waves that are actually not very big, because they had to learn how to do a lot with like very small waves. So I feel like
I love that.
There's like this constant, like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stories like that in life in general, of just like making the most of like the thing that you have. And I feel like getting those chords to heaven sounded like a really great starting point for you. But and you mentioned in the past that, like, you know, fast forwarding a little bit, that you've waited tables and did the like $50 gigs and stuff like that. Like, what other kind of hustles did you have? Like, I worked at Dairy Queen. I worked at a taco place in Orlando, or not in Orlando, in Sarasota. I worked at a movie theater. Like, did you have any like little hustles like that?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, my parents' rule was, if you want a car, you need a job, and if you want a job, you need a car. And I was like, there's something isn't adding up here. Like, you need one first. But that was the thing. I started hosting. I was a hostess at a restaurant right when I turned 17, because I failed my road test. It was called the Double O Grill, and the owner of the restaurant found out I was a singer, and my high school was just down the street, and I got the gig of singing the national anthem at all the sports games, and I had to work, and no one could cover me one time, and there was a basketball game, and I was like, Alex. And if you've ever worked in a restaurant and you're watching this, he was Greek and exactly what you would think. Didn't smile, terrifying. But for some reason, he'd come over and go, "You're the singer?" And I was like, and I'd be like, "Yeah, like, is that?" And he goes, "Nice." That was it. And that was like the one thing we heard all year. So I'm used to music business people now, because I'm like, anyone, they're just Alex, you know? But I was like, "I'm really sorry to say this, but there's a sports game and I forgot, and I can't get my shift covered, but there's no national anthem if I don't go." And he was like, 15 minutes. And he let me leave, sing, come back. Like, it was really cool. So I started there, got promoted to a waitress. The job was just awesome. I would go to college and come back, and I never actually ever quit. They just kind of, I'm pretty sure I could still clock in there. I love that place. And then it was Kids U was the name of it. It's in New York and in Connecticut. I did children's birthday parties. Like, I dressed up as Star Wars characters, or if the theme was cars, and we would do mommy and me classes in the morning. And then it would turn into like kind of cheerleading, tumbling. I had no business teaching that. I can't, like, I'm like not coordinated at all. But I'd be like, "All right, guys, you know, cartwheel, whatever." But then it would turn into children's parties at night, where you'd have to get dressed up and do a theme. And like, kids are just so cute. You'd be like, "By the way, I've never seen Star Wars or Harry Potter. None of them. I don't know." So you had to pretend to
be these characters that you've never seen before.
3 words. Yeah. So I'd be like, "All right, guys, we're going to go. We're going to head into the atmosphere." I'm like, "Watch out for stormtroopers," because I heard someone say it once and I stole it from, like, I knew nothing, but it was like improv. So everything has kind of helped me in some ways, I think, for songwriting, but so many odd jobs. I mean, I was an assistant for Allstate Insurance for a little bit, because there was this one pair of boots I really wanted. Everyone had these like over the knee Steve Madden boots, and I couldn't afford them, and I was in high school. So I doubled up and was like an assistant when I was a senior, because you got to leave early. Did a couple hours there. The guy felt so bad, because I was making like $8 an hour. And eventually for Christmas, he like actually got me the boots. He and his wife were like, just like, it's okay.
The Allstate like team did? That's crazy.
Yeah. him and his wife bought them for me because they knew that was the only reason I took the job. And so they, waitress, child party host, I nannied. I actually lived with a family for a whole summer pretty much. They were 10 minutes away, but I did anything. I would teach the little kids singing lessons while I babysat. I couldn't cook. They never put me on that, but I did everything else. Still really can't cook, to be quite honest.
Oh man, but it's funny, you know, you brought up the Star Wars thing. Scotty, who's actually in the chat right now, has been playing through one of the Star Wars games. So it sounds like he's enjoying his snacks and his ears are open to the whole thing.
Good.
So I think what he said, that's so cool. He was probably referring to the Star Wars element of it, but that's been super fun to watch. So I guess when did because I'm trying to remember when we met in Nashville, had you already moved to LA at that point?
Yeah, I had just gotten there.
What year did you move to LA?
I wanted to move sooner, but I actually didn't get there until January of 2017. And then I came to Nashville that, I think, February or March, and I met you.
Dude, that's wild. And then I remember us passing each other like in the Warner Chappell office in LA. I think you were literally going in to meet with Mark Wilson, and then I was.
And I literally got my contract the next day. They gave me an offer, and I always feel like you were good luck for me a little bit. But I saw you, I hugged you, and I remember you were like, "You got this," and you like gave the good word on your way out, and I was just like, "Oh, that made me look so good." That I was like, "Oh yeah, like, oh that A&R at Atlantic, like." He's my boy. He's my friend. Like, no. Oh, Chris, yeah, we go way back. I'm like, I met him once, but I was trying to be so, LA, like, you fluff it. I'm like, love that guy.
Oh, 100%. And that's funny. You're like perfectly dovetailing into like my question, which is like, can you talk about the experience of like the music industry and like navigating it now, like from when you like first got to LA, like kind of similar to. There's obviously like things you kind of know now that you didn't then, but what was it like when you first got there? Like what was in your head?
Well, there's two quotes that I have heard from being in the industry now that I realized I should have based my life off of a while. I should say 3. Should have done it a while ago. I should have thought about these. One is you can only connect the dots looking back. It's a Steve Jobs quote. The other is comparison is the thief of joy. And the other came from Greg Souders, who's been at Warner Chappell for over 20 years. His bosses, some of them are younger than he is. And he said, the real key with music is to never stop being a student. There's always something to learn. And the day you have nothing to learn and nothing to strive or dream for, you can lose that love for it. And I was like, I wish someone told me this in my 20s. But before LA, I guess if anyone's watching this, you're curious about music and how to break in. My story, if you are watching this, is probably because you want to know more and you are some sort of hustler who's trying to figure out and break in. That was me. No one handed it to me. I wish there was like a fairy godmother or like I knew somebody. But the truth was I was in New York and all I wanted to do was move to LA because everyone was there. So I thought I had to be there. And to a degree, yes, you have a better chance of getting hit by an apple if you're sitting under the tree, right? So I knew, I finished school. I was too broke. I had college loans. So I waited tables and sang in wedding bands in all of 2016 and watched as everybody else was like in sessions and I knew nobody. And so a friend of mine, his name's Kyle, he introduced me to this guy named Christian in that year, the year that I thought was the worst year of my life. I like really need to put out how much I effing hated being in New York. I lived in a tiny little bedroom in my sister's like spare room. She didn't even take money from me because it was like a closet. And I just was like, this is my year. I'm just going to work really hard and not.
And you really stress. Haven't seen Harry Potter because there's.
No, yeah. So you can tell I haven't. I know about the stairs or something, but like that really nothing. But so I'm in this closet, just like working. I would drive an hour into Brooklyn to meet this guy, Christian, that my friend introduced me to. And I was paying him for sessions. And I do believe when you first get started, you just can't have an ego. You can think that you're talented and that you're worthy of being there and you have something to say. But like a teacher once told me, your parents had sex and you showed up. That's what they say. You're not special. There's no crazy gift about you. You just have to, what is it that makes you you? Because it's not some like magical potion. You're just here. So what is it? And I was like, damn, needed that. But anyway, I'm in New York, get introduced to this guy and I'm paying him for his time because I'm like, you have no reason to give me your energy yet, And he said, I want to keep working with you. And I was like, thank you very much. I can't afford you. And he was like, oh, no. I actually want to bring you in to write with other people. I think you're good. And I think maybe it could be fun to do some co-writing if you're down. And he just started pulling me in with all of his friends. And I was like so excited about it, but really wanted to get my butt to LA. Got a phone call from the restaurant Mastro's Steakhouse. And they said, hey, we need your help. We heard you're amazing and you sing in the wedding bands out here in Boston. Can you open the Mastro's in Boston? I said, I'm really thankful for your time. I don't know what you were told. I'm in New York. I'm trying to move to LA. I was like, no. And the guy was like, well, our New York location is really stocked, but what if I told you this? If you come every weekend to Boston and you help us open the restaurant, I will employ you 3 nights a week at Beverly Hills and Malibu Mastro's. So you'll be able to make money and do whatever you want.
Damn.
So I literally drove an hour from my sister's to Brooklyn every Monday morning, stayed through back and forth an hour every day. And then Thursday night, I drive to Boston for 3.5 hours, sleep with friends, sleep with my boyfriend at the time, anywhere I could not sleep with them, guys, but like stay over. I'm like, everyone chill. But I was there. And then I would gig Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday brunch, drive back, repeat for a whole year. I thought it was the worst year of my life. I was like, I'm not doing anything good. Within that year, Christian, after months of working together, introduced me to his friend, whose name is Mitchie. And he was going through like a phase and he wasn't sure if he was going to be in a duo or start a solo project. We wrote just to write. We wrote 2 songs. One was called Broken, one was called Emotion. I completely forgot about it because I was just like one track mind. So I finally get to LA. I did my year. I did my duty. I was like, oh, now I'm a year behind. I really just like got to make up for lost time. Literally a month and a half into being in Los Angeles, Christian calls me and he just goes, remember those songs we wrote? And I was like, no. He said, well, they're going to radio. He signed a deal. And that wound up being the song that was in the worst year of my life. I wrote the 2 first songs for my artist project. I wrote the 3 first cuts that got me my pub deal. I wrote everything in that year that I thought was the worst year of my life because I was so focused on what everybody else was doing. I didn't even realize that I was doing it too. And now I'm so thankful for that year because I got to LA and I was able to get sessions because I had something, you know? And that, I hope that's really answering the LA question, but that really is what I learned was I made friends. That is truly the answer. This guy from my hometown saw my YouTube covers that had like 4,000 views. He was just my friend on Facebook. And he was like, I have some people in New York I could intro you to. And I was like, thank you. Christian wound up going to the same college as I did years before and was just like, I know you must be good. That's fine. And so he just started pulling me in, which led to those writers liking me and they pulled me in. And I just felt like it was a small little cute group. There was no, no one really had hits yet or anything. They were just a group of people that I liked and they liked me. I went to every possible industry event I could go to. I knew people before I got there so I could say hi. And then when I got to LA and I'd see them again, like an ASCAP thing, like, hey, you remember me? And then eventually people would come up to me, hey, congrats on that song. I remember you from that year ago. And that really was just like, I made friends. I made sure I was prepared. And I was just, and I still am, I think it's the most important thing. I was nice to people and I really try to remember them. And if I ever don't, I like profusely apologize and offer to buy them a coffee. Like, just be human, like what you said. Talent is such a small portion of it because in most cases, you could be the best guitar player in the world. If you are a jerk, I do not want to be on a tour bus with you because the show's only 45 minutes. The tour bus is 24 hours. I'm just like, right? Like, it matters. So that's where I feel like, I don't know, it was like a struggle, hustle, everything. But I'm so proud of that journey because now it's like I'm still working. I'm working harder than I was then, but I think it's so cool to feel like your life resume isn't a series of handouts. And that's okay if that is your life, but mine, I don't think would have panned out. If I was born with any sort of like crazy privilege, I would be like a Gucci wearing, long nail. I would just be like, I don't know if I'd be me, to be honest. It's just like the hustle is me, No,
and I think that's awesome that you sort of, I feel like you wear those influences and the things that have happened just in your life, in your everyday life, in your songwriting, and your friendships from everyone that I've gotten to meet over the years. Because like you said, you bump into people and then you're like, oh, Sam, and then you can kind of get a gauge of like how somebody is, especially in a place like LA where when you, if you ask anybody else, like the world gets smaller and smaller when you get out there in a way, but also gets bigger and bigger at the same time. So, I mean, some people on here are trying to build a team either for like their songwriting career or as an artist or or for collaborators, like before they even get to doing that. Like, I guess, how do you navigate building sort of both parts of your career? Do you view them separate at all, or are they kind of always the same thing? Like, just curious what that is like in your head when you're sort of balancing things.
Yeah, I think the music is the most important thing. I think it's the only thing that can really separate you from anything. So I think if you have five songs and they're the only songs you've ever written, write more before you try to find your team. You have to truly like continue to humble yourself and really think, is this it, you know? And I think for the artist and the songwriter side, for me, those where they coexist is that I only think that I'm worthy of a cut with another artist or to put out a project if I think I'm putting out work that is better than what I made yesterday. So I think the music has to speak for itself and be really good, or be something that you don't want to wake up every day and remember who you said you were. You know what I mean? Like, it's really important that songwriter Sam is consistent for what people think they're getting if they call me in, the same way that artist Sam should be delivering the same message, but ultimately they're both me. So in some cases, sure, maybe I'll tell my own story a little more detailed, and that's when I'll know it's mine to keep. But I think the music part of it has to be the same. So where the teams come in, I think, is actually where they differ. Because when you're an artist, it becomes radio and let's get her on Jimmy Fallon, and, you know, we need to partner you with Coach or those things. And with songwriters, the team is, let's pitch this, or, ooh, I think you'd be great with this person and this is why. So I think the teams are what, for me, differentiate the two, because I've always felt like for every song I write, sometimes I literally will think of it and be like, ooh, I hear someone with a country twang on this. Since I was little, I've just always thought that way. But there was always this feeling that I knew I was going to perform and do my own too. So they've just always been two people together.
Oh, I get that. And then, and you actually mentioned this in your earlier, like the question before this, but when you talked about meeting Mitchie, for anybody who doesn't know, the duo that he was in that you referenced was it Oh Honey? Was that what it was called?
Honey.
Oh
Yep.
Honey. And then Mitchie Collins ended up starting up Lovely the Band. Yep. And the song Broken is a really like big moment for you, marking really just like the beginning of a lot more moments that just seem to keep happening in your life. I think a lot to do with who you are as a person. And I know that you've already sort of shared the story of that song going, like how you guys kind of wrote it, you forgot about it, and then it came out. But I guess even like you said, you can only connect the dots looking back. Is there anything that you think about when it comes to that song? Like what made that combination of you guys and that artist and where they were in their career and everything? Is there something that you can look back and be like, oh, that was the reason why that song was so good or came out so good?
Yeah, I actually can. And I've realized in some sessions, there are moments where still to this day, I do the opposite of what I did in that room, and it's why I don't get placements. And in that room that day, I didn't want to be right. And I didn't want to be the star. And it's funny because when Christian introduced me, he goes, my best friend's coming to town. You're either going to love him or hate him, but I know you're going to write well together. And I was dying. I was like, how do you introduce me to people, bro? Like, what, you know? But it was like so fun because I just said, okay, cool. And they have their whole rapport. So I was like, I'm not going to try to be his best friend today. And if you don't meet me in a session, that's literally all I want to do. I'm like, oh, please, like, let's be best friends. Like, what's your social security number? And I was like, okay, in this room, this is a chance. This guy's trusting me with his friend who is writing for possibly a new project. Could be nothing, but I knew that they had all these amazing songs. So I just wanted to be a part of it. So the thing that I think was really different then is I just listened. You know, I noticed that he was in his phone a lot of the time and wanted to keep a lot of the lyrics personal. And I remember he just kept singing the idea of broken, but didn't like have a rhyme with it yet. And I stayed really quiet for a while until he was like that, you broken. And I was like, that's cool, you know, waited. I remember he went for like a different idea. We went to another song and I was like, I like that other one still. And then he went back and he's like, I like that you. And I remember I was just like, lonely, like doesn't quite rhyme. And I tried to like explain myself and I didn't have to. He just goes, like that you alone. Yeah, that's cool. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just gonna like keep slipping in little ideas here. I don't need to be Sam right now. I just want him to see that I can help with whatever story he's trying to tell. And I think that that's what I think is the biggest part of songs like that. When you meet someone for the first time, there's a vulnerability there that you can't ask for, but often will just kind of be there. And you have to really just like find a way to be their collaborator and their friend without thinking too much into the friendship part of it. I think you really just need to, like, if you are with an artist, watch the room, even if it's not an artist. If someone comes in that day and they are like, I have an idea, it's called Halo, it's da-da-da-da-da, there's no need for you to be like, what if it's like, hell no, and this is why. Like, hey, just ride the wave for a bit. And I think I learned a lot about sessions from that day because I was like, why did this work so well? And I think it was about my big ass personality taking a back seat because I genuinely was just a little nervous, you know? So go into everything a little excited and a little nervous, and go into everything thinking to yourself, hey, I don't want to be right today. I just want to do what's right for the song. It's not about me. If I don't contribute one lyric, but I know that I sat here and helped this person follow that journey all the way out of the tunnel, I did that. Even if you're not in the room, it wouldn't have happened. You need to be there for that. There's so many waves to what makes a collaboration. And I think that's why Broken worked. Is we now are friends. We just wrote recently, actually last week, but it was so cool the way that it happened because I was like, hey, you don't know anything about me, and that's okay. I'm just going to show you that there's a reason we should do this again. And we did, and we have. And I think that's what I still take with me into sessions. Whenever I F up, I'm like, I know why. I was very vocal today. I didn't need to be. And sometimes the song suffers.
Man, I mean, and it's funny, the chat was saying big brain move there, such sound advice, agreed, great insight info, everything like that. So clearly what you're saying is definitely resonating with a lot of the creative people in the room. And it's certainly, it's like, I've never, you know, I've heard it sort of said a different way on the A&R side of thing. It's like, there's a lot that could be said. Like, there's like knowing the difference between like it's almost better like when to sort of like get in the way, in a sense, like where it's like if you do need to challenge somebody, but sometimes it's just like stay out of it and just like don't say anything and like let people like learn. Because like when you do A&R or something, a lot of people sort of get this weird ego about, they're like, oh my god, everything I know, like everything that, like I have the answer for everything. And what you just said about like being right,
and what do you even know? It's subjective. Like I have a degree in songwriting and I still stand behind it because I have a saying, and it's tools, not rules. I wanted to know enough to get myself out of holes and figure out ways, but it's not the end all be all. Like just because you have an idea and I have an idea, neither of us are necessarily right. It's just it's like a feeling. So you just really have to be with people that you trust and people who let you be you. And some days I call it the therapist scribe method. Some days it's like you're on the chair and you're just like, oh, and I'm just like, okay, sick. Okay, so how did that make you feel? Right. And that's the song. And sometimes it's both of you just, oh, this guy cheated on me. Same 3 years ago. Let's talk about that. Or it's just, or you're the person in the chair. You never know, but it's the same with the A&Rs. The one thing you need to always know in music is that you know nothing. You just feel like you want to be there. And as long as you have that feeling like you have something to say, at least this is what I tell myself. I mean, again, I know nothing. Any cool success I've had, I still feel like I am this big compared to the people that I strive to be like, right? But you have to say to yourself, it's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to do what we do. Like Greg Souter said, you have to always make sure you are a student. And I want to learn from everyone. If you're learning from me and I'm like, I'm not 30 yet and I have no kids, what the hell do I know, right? Like you have to just always be inspired by people and maybe think that you know nothing. And it makes you, then anything is a bonus, right? Low high expectations. I have no idea what the saying is, but that.
I don't know what the saying is either, but it's funny. Scotty was like saying that your energy makes him want to go for a run, and he's saying that that's very much like a compliment, because and that's something that I've always enjoyed too, is like, especially in a loud place like Old Glory when we were talking, like being able to like, there's so many people that I've like had conversations with and they're just like very like meek and quiet. And then it's like, but I've always enjoyed the energy that you bring. So I can only imagine being in a room and like getting to write with you and what that's like. So speaking of writing, I know that you've spent some time in Nashville, but I'd be curious to know like your sort of opinion on like different music scenes that you've visited. It doesn't even have to be just isolated in Nashville. If you had a great time in Minneapolis or Chicago's music scene or whatever, I would love to know just like if there's any sort of like what your perspective on the different music scenes around the world like are like to you.
I would love to see more for sure. I mean, I've never been to London, and I've heard that that's a whole nother vibe. But I think one of my favorites, and it's not a creative scene, I played a show there, and just, this is gonna sound so, people are like, really? I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan. So like Foo Fighters, Nirvana. I went to Seattle and I played a So Far sound show, just like an acoustic, non-mic show. I wound up staying there for 3 days. I went to clubs, I went to dive bar. I love dive bars, like live bands over DJs. I'm so sorry if anyone at that event, but for life. I just love, there's something so cool about just that city for me. And there's like incredible food, but I had a blast there. And I think for me, there was just like, there's a grit and a toughness about Seattle that I loved, and it's reflected in the music and in I think a lot of the bands that come out of there. And then I think in Nashville, what I love is just this, that city just feels like a storybook. Every time I'm there, I just feel like I hear lyrics that just make me go, damn it, Sam, why didn't you pick that? You know, and I love that about that city. And then I think in LA, I find myself constantly inspired by voices and melody. And I think it's like the top line choices. I hate to say that word because I always feel like you're not a top liner, you're a songwriter, you're an artist, you know, but when I hear people sing live and I hear melodic choices and rhythms that I just would never notice before, LA's the city where I stopped hearing the words and I heard the melody. And I've always been a lyric person and a concept person. And then I think in New York, it's vocals for me. Like I love and chords, because there's you can go to a lot of really cool places for jazz, and I'm such a nerd for that stuff that I think every city has their little shining moment, and I'd like to explore more, but I hope that answers it.
No, 100% does. And it's funny, somebody they've been working together in the chat to figure out what the saying was, and it's looks like the guesses were like big goals, low expectation, then somebody said high hopes, low expectations. Is that
there
the one?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. So thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Walt and Roddy, for that one. Appreciate it.
Yes. And Scotty, I've actually been told 3 different times that I've made people feel like they want to go for a run in a good way. And I've never known what that means. And I'm like, I hope it's good. But that exact sentence has been told to me multiple times. I'm like, crap.
No, I love it. I think it's just the energy that you exude is like, it's contagious. So, and I know at this point that you're probably thinking like, wow, what a great production, Chris. Like, look how fancy everything looks. But I think we should talk about another production that I think is a little tiny bit higher quality, which is Songland. We have to talk a little bit about it. So how did that opportunity come up?
Totally by accident. It's crazy. I saw the email from Songland, like the flyer, website pop-ups like 3 years before. And then I never heard of it again, because I guess the show was reworked and later released. Everyone would send it to me. Girl, you got to try this thing. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I've been called back for every TV show you could think of. Like, American Idol, they brought me really far. No joke. It was like, I didn't make it to Simon. I made it to the people before. And someone was like, you have really nice legs. You should come back next year. I was literally told that. I was like 16. And I was like, he likes my voice, you know? And then I got found on like YouTube and via Instagram for The Voice. And they like flew me back to New York from Boston when I was at school, made it all the way to the, round of the round, went through all of it. And they told me that I seemed nervous. And I was like, one thing I know I'm not is nervous, but okay, that's fine. Like one time I was told there were too many brunettes. So, I'm trying to paint this picture of when someone says you should go on that TV show, I was like, they hate me. I'm just not. I went to a meeting that actually my former manager, Teddy, set up. He had me meet this girl I don't want to give her name just in case, but I met somebody at Interscope and we had a meeting for my artist project and songwriting songs and just kind of like played her all these demos. And she said to me, "You have so much energy. You make me feel like I want to go run a marathon. Have you ever been on television?" So Scotty, bless you. But I was like, me on TV? I was like, oh yeah, like I would be on like the CW. Like I want to, like, is that what you mean? And she was like, no, like singing shows or something. And I was like, no,
Nope.
They don't like me. I was like, they don't like me. That was it. And then we talked about a bunch of other things. I left. I'm in Nashville. We had just seen you, I actually think, the night before. I'm eating a pulled chicken sandwich at Edley's. Never will forget. Best I've had in a while. Barbecue pulled chicken by myself, sitting at a table, living my best life. Dennis LePerry, the manager of Lovely the Band, calls me and says, "Are you interested in a publishing deal?" And I was like, and he goes, "Broken is slated to like be #1 in a couple of months." And I was like, wait, really? Because I checked the charts once, saw that it fell. It's like football games. If the team starts losing, I leave. I'm like, I don't want to do this to my dad. He'll ask me to leave. So I was like, oh, no more chart watching for Sam. It's a horrible idea. So I didn't see it. And he says that, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I think I need to connect you with my manager. Like even saying that word, everything just felt new. I'd been offered a couple of deals before, and I knew enough to know they were bad, you know? And so he was like, I'm talking Warner Chappell or Sony TV or these big companies that are interested. And I'm like, okay, cool. Hang up the phone. Phone rings. "Hi, this is Courtney from NBC Songland." I hung up the phone. I thought it was a prank. I literally hung up on this girl. And I was like, Teddy calls me. "Hi, you need to talk to these people." And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I know what's going to happen. They're going to tell me something weird. And like, I'm insecure enough. Like I was like going off, and he's like, "Can you just talk to this girl?" So I told her everything. I just said, I'm just terrified. I said, I have nothing against people who go on those shows. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing to earn it, to win it, however you want to describe it. I just felt like I tried so hard to like win or make it look easy that I just thought I guess I'm just going to have to hustle to earn it, and then I'll win it. That's just my life, and that's okay. And she was like, "What if I told you you can only get on the show with a song? There's no like crazy backstory. We don't have the time to flip your story." Or I literally said to her, "I know you're going to make it look like I talk too much." And I can just picture the reel of like and I would just look crazy, you know? And she was like, "No, I actually think that you should give it a try." Fine. I get on Skype. I meet some of the people. We talk a little bit. They like all my songs, and they say, yeah, actually one of our casting directors is friends with the A&R who I met with at Interscope. And she sent my SoundCloud link to that girl and said, "I have a girl for your show," and literally sent it.
Small
and
world.
I had no idea. I saw her 2 years later at Grammy party. She didn't even remember doing it. She just was like, "No." I was like, "You did. You're the reason that I did any of this." And it's so funny now, and we're friends, but that's really how it happened. And I went on the show. And I was the pilot for the show. That's why they were very specific about finding people. Now you audition, of course, but it was supposed to be the pilot. It was 2018, and I was then told, you can't be published. You have to choose Warner, because they were my favorite of anybody. Everybody's amazing. I just really loved the team there. Or Songland. And I said, I've worked too hard. I want the publishing deal. I want the contract. I want to continue to just hustle my way through. So I signed the deal, and the TV show calls Warner Chappell, Greg Souders, and says, "We're going to make this work. We love this girl." I can't believe it was like the craziest thing in the world, but they loved the song, and they like thought it was worth it for the pilot. So I go on the pilot, I go on, which becomes the show. It got moved to the finale when it was like, ended up being the last thing. The show sat for 1.5 years. So by the time my episode aired, it was 1 year and 8 months since I filmed it. So I was just like, oh God, like, do I look the same? Like, what am I about to, what's happening, you know?
Yeah, it's like looking back at like an old photo that you took or something
Yes.
on your phone.
Yeah, and like me a week ago, I'm like, oh God, we don't know her. So that I was like, oh my God, I'm about to be on television. But the thing with Songland that made it so crazy was the crew was just, they were the nicest people. They were like family. The production value, the cameras, the glam, everything they put on my face, I bought. I was like, oh, it's Armani, whatever. Like, I've never felt so cool in my life. I like bought whatever. I was just like, I just want this makeup. I want to relive this forever. But that's how I got on the show, and that's how all of that happened. It was so the same day I got offered, and that's life, right? I'm either on the Netflix
When it rains,
and
it
chill
pours.
vibes. Oh my God, you're either like, you haven't washed your hair in 4 days, like you don't want to be seen. And then it's like, hey, you have a choice, red carpet or ASCAP Awards. And you're like, what? That's what it is.
Man, I mean, I think that's amazing, and just the amount of time that goes into it. And I don't want to dwell just like on that one moment, because you if you guys are watching this, there you can definitely go and see it. Like your episode is on, or well, multiple episodes, right? Like
Yes.
I haven't watched the show so many times that I don't.
You're fine. Mine's one episode, and then they actually brought me back for season 2 because they emailed me to see if I had friends for the show. And I sent them, I sent them like 40 people. Most people didn't even know that I sent them. I was just like, this is it. I'm not going to be on Songland 37 times. I have talented ass friends. I got you, But one of them wrote a song that was on a female artist episode. So they brought me back into the studio to sing the show. I got called like 12 hours before, and I was like, I got you. And I learned it, and I drove to the studio, and I was on TV again. It was really fun. It was cool.
That's sick. Is there any anything that people wouldn't have seen in those episodes that was off air that like you feel like is a cool story that you're also like allowed to share? Because I know that there's some things that are you're not so much allowed to share publicly.
I had to double check too before. I was like, before I did any interviews, I was like, guys, what can I not and say, because there's word vomit all the time. So like, let me just confirm. But I think there was specific advice that I got on my episode that is just, it's so important to me. First thing is, my episode was supposed to be Maroon 5. The pilot of the show was supposed to be Maroon 5. And Adam Levine was expecting a second child, and things just got crazy. It takes so long to get a pilot going that they put Charlie Puth in last minute. I did not know that he was going to be the artist till the morning of. And I panicked, and I said, oh my gosh, I've gone to school with him. Is this weird? Like, he won't remember me. But they were like, we're not going to say anything. Don't worry. Thanks for telling us. But you're not getting any intro. You're just going to walk into the room, and if he remembers you, cool. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And I walked in, and he was like, I know you. He told them my name. He told them my name. He told them how I was a waitress. He remembered me raising money, like, after the Boston Marathon bombings. And, like, he just really said the sweetest things that I was like, yeah, what he said. Like, because I would never have, I was like, thank you, Charlie Puth. Like, what, And
that's wild.
He was so nice. And so then after that, something else really cool that happened is Ryan Tedder was like, I'm so confused. Do you live in Boston? Do you live in New York? Are you here? Like, where you been? And I very, very Spark Note version, I promise, gave him what I told you of the 2016. Like, I was here because I couldn't afford to move here yet, and I'm here, and Broken was still climbing, so I didn't mention that at all. And he goes, I want to stop you right there because I love your hustle. You have no control over who got signed, when they got signed, how they got signed, who knew who was related to who was rich, insert whatever here. And I remember the way he threw them all out there. He said, the only thing you can control is the work you put in. And so long as you wake up every day knowing that everything you do is for that goal, it's just energy, it's just science. There's no way you're going to fail. He said, in everything that led you wherever, all those gigs that you just told me that you got paid with dinner, you're standing in front of us right now, aren't you? He goes, it just so happened that Charlie Puth is the artist, isn't he? And he remembered you, didn't he? And I was like, I hadn't even sang yet. I was like already crying, and I'm like, they better fix my makeup, because I'm like I was like unstable.
Oh man.
But imagine, like I jump octaves in my choruses because of Ryan Tedder. You know what I mean? Like, if anyone's a songwriter, that's his thing. Verses are down here, and then the chorus is an octave jump. Just my whole life, I've looked up to that guy. So that was really cool, and he hadn't even heard me sing yet. And then the other thing that was cool, final thing, is when I sang the song and they gave me the standing ovation, they all in the moment said, who are you and where's your record deal? And I was like, and Ryan Tedder said, if I had someone in the room with me and one of my writers downstairs told me you were here and played me this song, I would have literally dropped everything. And I will, if you don't have a record deal in 2 years, I promise you I will drop everything and spend 6 months making your album with you. And I didn't even know yet if I was on the show. And
you should have just told people to leave you alone for 2 years.
Yep. I was like, I'm forever going to be tweeting from the afterlife. Welcome to the funeral. Like, that was enough. I was good, but that's what's cool about it. I was in that room for like 2 hours, and they only show, what they can, but it was amazing.
I mean, that's incredible. And I'd love to know just like, thank you. I got some tequila.
Hi.
Kristen just went over. We're having tacos. Normally we save
Love
tacos for Tuesdays or Wednesdays, but we're doing Friday. But
Hell yeah.
so I would love to know, like, because obviously there was time between the taping and then the show coming out. Like, what were those few months like after taping like for you? Because you're hearing these things that these people are saying about like the artist stuff, and up until that point, I'm trying to remember. I don't feel like did you have anything really out at that point? Like,
No, I had like 2 songs called Hate Me and Hard to Love that I put out just because I made them with people that I loved and wanted to try. But they, did nothing. You know what I mean? Like, by that I mean proud of them, but no playlisting. I didn't even know what that was yet, really.
Yeah. So what went into, I guess, what did you start thinking about? Because I'm sure that put the artist bug more in your head than probably ever before.
And I...
Oh my God. Sorry to interrupt you. We do have a tequila emote, and I realized that was a missed opportunity on my part, y'all. So I'm going to, please, if you have the tequila emote, feel free to spam that in the chat. But
I want to see this.
Yeah. Basically, so I have this thing where I like to go onto my friends' music streams. They play covers or music, and I go and request tequila, like the song. And if you
Danny
know...
Say?
No.
Or Tequila.
That song.
Okay,
and the funny thing is because they're singers some of the times, or they're guitar players, and there's really not a whole lot for them to do. And sometimes they oblige me and they actually do it. But it happened enough times that somebody actually Mara ended up making an emote for it. And another thing that's about Twitch, it's funny that all the quirks are now popping up, but there's a thing called channel points, and channel points can be redeemed as you earn them as you watch the stream or you participate in streams and everything like that.
Yeah.
And you can use them to spend on things on my channel. It's everything from highlighting their message, making us drink water, pet cam, where they get to see one of our pets, all the way to like literally like it would take a very long time and a lot of effort for me to play Nickelback on the stream. So there's things like that, but one that was just redeemed is for one called Yeehaw, which is a suggestion that Kristen had made. So we both have to go and give our best Yeehaw for the stream. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? I kind of don't want to have to follow you up if I'm being honest. So I would like to go first.
I don't know if I've ever actually said the word in my life and tried, so you go first.
Okay, yeah. I'll go first. So yeehaw.
Love it. Okay.
Your turn. You do it as much energy. You did it.
Big burger?
You did it.
Okay.
There you go. I was like, it's for 2 people who weren't necessarily born in like the real South. I don't know if that's good for our friends who maybe, I don't know who actually says yeehaw on a regular basis.
I know. I'm like, guys, I'm from New York. I'm so sorry. Please don't. Like, ours are holla. Can I get a hallelujah? All my friends would always say that.
I love it. Yeah, we'll work on that soundbite for everybody. But no, we shouldn't do it again, Kiwi. I'm going to restrict it to just one. If you do that. Kiwi is Kristen, by the way. If you see her popping up in the chat. But
the most beautiful lady.
She's the best. But yeah, so back to what it was like the first few months after taping, and the artist bug is in your ear now. Take us to that point.
I think that for me, artistry always felt like it had to be a destiny thing. You know, I knew forever that I wanted to do it, but I don't want to force it down people's throats. I feel like, especially when you're a songwriter, I think there's like a certain amount of respect you really should have for the craft and for the game first. It was actually Mitchie who gave me that advice once that said, you know, you're probably always an artist. My advice just from doing both would be pick one and focus on that first so that you can give it everything. So I did. And then when Songland happened, I was like, holy crap, you know, that this is possible. What I will say is when those moments happened, it's probably quick to think that I just like have Ryan Tedder on speed dial now and me and Esther Dean get coffee all the time. It's not like that. These people are just as busy as anyone else you know. Their words, though, hold weight, and it means a lot. Knowing that those people know who I am and they follow me on Instagram, you can't expect them to like hold your hand now and walk you through everything. But it was just cool to know that they noticed me. I actually, in the midst of that year, got called for a really last-minute session at the Village in LA. It's a studio. I literally know nothing about that. I just write songs, right? So. Yeah, so I go in there and Esther Dean I wish I was kidding. She's sitting on the couch and my face is on her phone. and she was watching the pilot. And I walk over and I go, hi, I don't know if you, and she just goes, bitch, get over here. I was like, oh my God, we're on that level. Like and she goes, look at your face. Look at you little star. And she like hugged me. And I was like, what is happening? That was probably the one cool thing. The rest of it was like the lull of, oh my gosh, is it happening? If it doesn't happen, what do I do with this information? And that's when I realized I just couldn't go crazy. If Songland came out, amazing. I still didn't know what they would show or what would happen. My life truly just went back to normal. You know, I wrote songs. I worked really hard every day and I did my thing. And then I knew that if it happened, you know, I would be able to put music out as myself with a little bit more of an audience. That's kind of where I was at. It truly was just regular life, except for that one random run-in where I nearly lost my mind. That's when I first saw the show. I was like, what's going on? But I was talking. Insane. Yeah. Wow, your life, Sam.
Yeah, Matt's an exceptional writer that you guys should definitely get to know each other at some point. He actually, it's great. I haven't heard a story like his. He was tour managing, but is like now pretty focused on the songwriting side of it. And I don't know that I've heard a story of like tour manager, like, and worked with like successful artists on the tour management side. I don't know that I've heard like tour manager turned songwriter before. I've heard like tour manager turned guitarist in a band before and stuff like that, but never that. So I love that he made it, because I know that there was some stuff going on. Either I think there was like a birthday or something like that. So I'm glad he really wanted to be here. So shout out to Matt for making the stream. I don't know if it was a birthday, but it was something important happened today. Please don't hate me for not remember what that was. Yeah, Matt the goat. That's P.O.
I like the whoop whoop. I saw that. I'm trying to read as I go.
No, for real. Trust me. Like, you come by one of the demo listening streams one of these days, and that one can get pretty hectic really fast. Everybody's being super respectful and everything. Mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. So I guess I'm trying to think. So how long ago did the show air? How long?
The show aired September of 2019.
Wild. And so then the pandemic
2020 was a gap year.
Pretty much. So I guess talking about 2020, you know, I guess we can't really avoid it at this point. But have you been doing remote sessions, and like, what do you think of the technology that exists at the moment? And like, or do you feel like it's better? Like, what's better and worse about the process right now?
I think the human condition and the human element of songwriting will always trump anything else. So the idea of not being able to be in a room and just people have energy. It's just a natural thing. Like, I mean, I'm sure I'm exciting over Zoom like that, like Scotty said, right? But being in a room and being able to, like, someone's singing it and you're like, go, go, go. And it's just on Zoom. I do love Zoom. I love audio movers. Every session's a little different the way we set it up. Sometimes one of us has an idea, or I'll play keys and be like, I have these chords. They'll be like, what are those keys? I realize with Zoom, everyone tries to come prepared, or at least I do, because my rule is 4 hours of Zoom or I'm done. Like, I can't stare at the screen for more than that. And then the beauty of the technology is you can walk away and come back. You know, you're not in a day and you never see them again. That's what's cool. But for me, I try to come in prepared, have a little idea or a lyric, and then the producer's able to kind of like do his thing. Sometimes he'll mute and the writers will write. And then when we hear the track, we'll give ideas or changes. Sometimes I'm cutting the vocal while on the Zoom. I love that I've been able to utilize the skills that I learned at school and apply the knowledge, but also I invested in an iMac and an Apollo and all the things and never used them. You know, I was always at a studio till 11 o'clock asleep. I'd wake up, try to remember to eat, and like, that was it. So to be able to be home and, you know, I know so much and I kind of just forgot. So it's been really fun to make my templates and have my own vocal tracking things. So for that, I think Zoom is really awesome. It teaches people to be self-sufficient. And I think right now in this era, it's important I'm a singer, and like, you have to have something else, right? I'm a songwriter, and I'm not going to call myself a vocal producer. I think that word should never be thrown around by any means. If I was in a studio with an artist, I'd crush it, but I'm not going to push the buttons. I just think I'm able now to know that I can cut decent piano vocal demos. I can, write over tracks from home. And that's really cool to know that. That's the beauty, I think, of what happened here is people learned how to,
do
people have
things
adjusted
that they
really
kind
well.
of put off in a way, like things that maybe you might have been interested in before, but
Yeah.
didn't really have the time or really the need to get into. I mean, I guess, how do you see, when we get back to this new normal of hopefully a more empathetic and understanding world and everything, more respectful, hopefully, where do you see, I guess, what do you see the role of like the technology you've been using and the skills that you've been using playing in those sessions when you can be back in the room with people?
I think the beauty is, I think a lot more sessions can happen because oftentimes you have people who you write a song and you have to come back to cut a vocal or do something. And I think the cool thing is I could be like, yeah, no rush. We can still meet. Let's just meet for 3 hours to get an idea and I can go home and work on it. So you don't have to feel like you have to miss your daughter's, recital because you have to cut my vocal. I can do that. You can edit it. If we have to fix it, we can. I think it's also going to be really cool to, if something's really necessary, right? And I can't be there and you want to write a song with me. And most of the writers are in person. I think it's really cool that you could Zoom people in and it's not a weird, scary thing anymore. It's so normal because we've all Zoomed at this point. I think those two things are probably the most important, but just the idea that you could really be anywhere or have majority in the room, but you could still be, it's really cool to know that. I still don't want to take advantage of that. I think being in person is so important.
Yeah.
But the biggest qualm I have is why I miss being in person is because when you're on Zoom, when you step over each other in a room, you could be like, doesn't happen on Zoom. Everything kind of glitches. One person has to speak. I had a friend tell me that he bounced out a track and the writer heard the entire top line a beat different than he did. So like verse came in on the one, chorus was a pickup. And on his version, the verse was, everything was behind. And it's two totally different songs. And the singer really wanted it the other way. And the producer was just like, oh man, it was the worst because I don't like it anymore. Like I stressed certain words because of that downbeat and we missed it because of Zoom, you can't, that's what I think is really interesting, but definitely you could Zoom when this resumes. This resumes.
I love that. It's funny. People are they're talking about audio movers and they're asking what your thoughts are on audio movers. Do you feel that it is, in Pio's word, he's asking, is audio movers the sauce right now?
I think in some sessions it is. Some of the sessions, I'll give an example. When I have a producer who sings, or they're like a production duo where one sings, which I write with the guys I wrote The Medicine with, they're a duo, right? One of my songs. I'm acting like people know that. Oh my gosh, sorry. But one thing I like.
It's a great song. You should check it out, guys. I'll link it in the chat.
But when we Zoom, they have an audio movers link. So if we're on with a bunch of writers and we're trying to hear and everyone's singing and the beat's playing differently, that's where I think the problem is. He will mute himself on Zoom and sing through audio movers. So he's like, this is what you guys hear, right? That's where I think it is efficient. And it's cool to hear a beat and you can mute and write your own ideas. But I think the best case scenario is the second you get even a couple chords down, I just say, can you bounce that to me? And I put it right into my Logic and I get the BPM and I get it on my own time so that when I sing top lines back, even though there is still an audio movers link set up, I just prefer, hey, spacebar, what do you think of this? And I play them out on my speakers because I think the timing is just so important.
I get that. And have you, because of the remote nature of it, have you found yourself writing with people that you feel like you might not have written with so soon because of where they're based? Like what I guess what was the furthest distance between you and a collaborator during the pandemic? Does that question make sense? Like if you were here and then somebody was in France or something?
I would say Norway. I was actually just 2 days ago, I met Matoma. He's a DJ for the first time. I love his stuff.
Tom is a great human.
Tom, we hung out. We did it at 10 in the morning because he had to, it was like probably 6 p.m. there. We got in at 10 a.m. I thought we'd be done around 1, we were done at like 5 o'clock my time. He stayed up till 2 a.m. He just like loved the song. He's drinking beers and he's hanging. I'm drinking water. He's drinking beer. And he's like, no, cut the vocal while you're here. I want to hear it. And I'm like, I feel like I'm going to be so pitchy. Like, you're a DJ. This matters that you like my voice or not, And I was like, but he was in Norway and it's like 2 a.m. and he hung out. That was probably the coolest thing is it's dark there. I'm just waking up and we hung out. It was amazing.
I love that. And then it's funny. So Cyclode here in the chat is actually in the Netherlands. So it's been cool I feel like for some reason, like that part of the world, like I feel more connected with people around the world than I ever have. Like
yes,
I'm waking
100%.
up and I'm watching streams from like, I'm making friends in like Japan, and like, it's been cool to like have that kind of a change. So I hope that we don't go back to just like, oh, okay, like everybody just hang out with like the people that are like pretty immediate to you. Like I'm excited about like what it's gonna look like going forward for a bunch of reasons. So I had a question about that. Not all songs get released, right? Like that you work on, and I'm sure that that's true for you. But how do you choose like what you keep versus? And you kind of said it before. You said that it's like if it's your truth or anything like that. But I'm sure as a songwriter, you've probably also, and from all the quotes you told me, you've also heard people tell you things that you felt in a way that's like, that's how I feel, but you just didn't have the words for it yet. So I guess like, how do you make the choices between what you put out versus what you might give to others? And are you open to outside songs?
I think I would be open to an outside song if it was an idea that I still had to finish. I think if someone was like, hey, I have a chorus idea. I just hear your voice on it, or I feel like it relates to you. Do you like this? I think if someone sent me a full song, they would have to be okay with the idea that as an artist, I would still want to write and mess with it. If it's finished, I mean, like if Zed calls me and says, there's this song called The Middle, would you like to sing on it? I'm certainly not going to be like, honestly, bro.
Oh, you froze. We froze.
There's differences, of course.
We froze for a second. We're back though, I think.
Okay, good. I think features are different, but I think songs for my specific project, like my album, I would always need to somehow collaborate, but I'm open to anything because although I have a way that I like to tell my stories, I think it's really beautiful to know that there's so many talented people in the world, some of whom I'm friends with, right? And that they can be thinking of me and have an idea for me. I think it's the greatest gift any artist can give to another artist is a song. I just know that I always would have to personalize it in some way. If that wasn't okay, totally okay. But I think that was just something I would always have to do.
I get that. And then, I mean, is there a particular song that exists out there that you're like, that sort of exemplifies that? Like maybe it's not a DJ thing, but it's like, yeah, that song, that's my life. That's how I feel. Is there a song that comes to mind when I say that? That's not your song?
I think when I heard The Bones by Maren Morris, it's interesting because she's technically country, but I don't believe in genres. People hate when I say that, but it's hard because now even playlisting, it's genre-y. I'm trying not to tangent on this, but it's so important to me to say that. I think of like
genre agnostic. You're in a cool place for that. The whole community, we listen to everything.
Good. So I've loved Sheryl Crow my whole life, and I was never really a country music fan. Not because I hated it and I listened and hated it, because it was just, I loved NSYNC and I loved Alanis Morissette, and my mom loved Madonna and Stevie Nicks. So like, and my dad liked Yes and Pink Floyd and Rush and Deep Purple. I just never had heard that. But Sheryl Crow was always on the radio, so I thought she was pop. And then I hear people say she's country and I'll rock. And then Maren Morris came and people used to say, oh, this is like Sheryl Crow. You can't really genreify her. And I just have always loved artists that do that to me, because I find myself not being scared to hear the song from in my life because of genres. And I heard her song The Bones, and I think coming from zombie apocalyptic breakups and finally being in a place where I feel really healthy and happy and, life, I think I heard that song and I was like, damn, even being happy in my personal life, I still write horrible breakup songs. So like hearing a love song, I think that one hit me really hard, and I was like, I just think it's so well written and it's beautiful.
Is there
Sonically too.
is there a particular line that you really connect with in the song, that when you think of that song, is there a moment that comes to your head, or is it just the overall feeling?
I think concepts just kill me, because if you really think about it, everyone is writing the same song just 100 different ways, and that's what makes it stick, right? I think for me, the idea that everybody tells you my aunt used to tell me when I was a kid, trust is the foundation you build your love on. If you build a house on sand, it's always going to fall. So trust is the cement. She always used to say that to me. And I heard the song The Bones, and like she had passed away, and I heard the song and I was like, damn it. I was like, Aunt Mare, you're probably so pissed at me for not thinking of this. It was one of those concepts that made me go, wow, just the house don't fall when the bones are good. And the way she talks about all the ways that love is like a house and the way you build it. I just love that chorus. I think the concept is really the overarching thing for me. It's not even one line.
No, I feel that. It's funny because sometimes when I like ask a question, like, and I write a question down, I'll like find myself asking myself that question. And this was one of those questions. And I was like, it would have to be Stop This Train by John Mayer for me. And one of the, in my opinion, one of the greatest songs
of all time.
It's
crazy you say that.
But specifically the line that's like, I'm so scared of getting older. I'm only good at being young. So I play the numbers game to find a way to say that life has just begun. And I do it all the time. And I think it has to do with that thing you were saying at the beginning about comparison and everything. You're like, oh, well, like, you know, but there's always going to be a fucking 8-year-old creating a way to solve global warming or whatever. It's like so it's really interesting that like feeling of like, you know, Stop This Train, and the fact that he chose this like really frail vocal tone to emulate his father, and talking about like it's
and
like,
even that, don't know, all these poetic lines, and then he just says, don't know how else to say it, don't want to see my parents go. I had 2 friends that I met at school at Berkeley, and obviously John Mayer went there for a little bit, and every single one of us has the story, and it's really weird, but all 3 of us, and we're still best friends to this day. I recently wrote on his pop punk album, I was like, I would do anything for you. And all 3 of us have the story of driving to Boston with our parents, playing that song and looping it more than once and crying the whole time. And it gets me like, I'm so emo, but like we all did that. Every single one of us drove to college with our parents. That song happened to come on because it was our playlist at the time. And every single one of us has that same memory. And also from a songwriter perspective, not to nerd out over this, but if you are a songwriter, there's something really cool about John Mayer's Stop This Train, where the strumming of the guitar actually sounds like a train, like chugging along. They use it all the time at school. They did. And also just the fact that everything kind of doesn't quite land on the downbeat of the song until he says, stop this train. That the word stop is on the nerding out, but it's just really cool.
I didn't know that, and I'm definitely going to be going back and listening to that song.
Listen back.
Because it's one of those songs too that you kind of find different meaning in it as you get older. And
it's
like
so
if there is I don't know if there's a better mark for classic song than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that just ages with you and everything. I don't know, it's so interesting. So we're getting towards the end of the stream, but I do have a few more questions, and I've been having a blast getting to like catch up with you and talk to you, because we haven't really, other than like interacting on social media every now and then, like we haven't gotten to really talk. So how do you schedule like your days lately, like with all of the stuff that you've got going on, like, and we'll get into the record deal in a minute, but like everything that you have going on, like how do you schedule out your day to feel like not only that you've accomplished something, but that you're also like making time for yourself and other things that matter in your life?
I have realized that I just thrive if I have some sort of schedule or some sort of routine. So when the pandemic started, I had like my 2 weeks of Christmas vacation is how I felt. And then I got to work. So I have a morning routine. It's subtle. And I've written songs about that. I've been very like overstimulated sometimes, where everybody tells you what you have to do. And I just tuned all that out. I wake up. I always leave my phone in the kitchen so that when I wake up, I don't use my phone. I have it on Do Not Disturb. and I have like an app called the Calm app. And sometimes it's just 5 minutes, but I always like set that intention that I'm going to do some sort of like breath or something. This is recent, but it really has helped me so much. And then I have a Peloton, game changer, and I will jump right on that. I'll do like fasted cardio in the morning right after a 5 or 10 minute.
And what time is this? Like, so we have a picture of like time of day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a 6 a.m.er. I mean, I'm down. I've done sunrise hikes, but you gotta like, I can't have any red wine the night before. There's like a process to it. But I probably wake up like 8:30, nothing crazy, and then I'm done working out and like ready for breakfast, but before 10 a.m. And then my sessions are usually at 1, so I always have like a little bit of time. And whether that's I call my mom, I figure something out. And I mean, you guys will know this if you're artists or performers. Of course, release weeks are different. Release weeks, I feel like, God forbid, my phone is not near me at all times. Someone's trying to reach me. There's a typo and I have to make sure of all that stuff. So that's where things go out the window. And that's when I think it is really important to have your little 3 things so that if your schedule is backwards, you know what your reset is. But I've learned for myself, if I don't exercise, I'm a different person. And I'm not here to like preach about fitness. I graduated high school overweight. I was like really skinny when I was a kid, so I thought I could eat anything. And I graduated high school 15 pounds heavier than I am now. So I promise you it's not some like girl trying to tell you otherwise. But for me, it really helped my mental health because, as our dear friend on here, Scotty, noticed, my energy is really intense. And I learned later in life that you can have something called high functioning anxiety, which is when you're stressed, you basically only operate well if you're moving 150 miles an hour, right? So I have like a V8 engine I'm like riding a bicycle kind of like at all times. So fitness is huge for me because it's not a matter of me trying to have a 6-pack and be a hot Instagram model, although they're gorgeous. For me, it's truly my mental health. So I wake up in the morning and I first quiet my mind, and then I exercise my body and my mind. And also the music that they play gets me, I'm like, ooh, this melody's cool sometimes. And then I love to eat healthy-ish. And then there's like a couple of funfetti cakes, probably like once a week. And then I do my session, and I just make a promise to myself to try to do it between 4 and 5 hours and try to cut it then, unless we're like, it's necessary to keep going, I will. But I always try to make sure that I'm having dinner and making time for my boyfriend. And like, I think it's important to be really human right now, especially. And I'm learning that you can do both. And busy is kind of just a poor excuse for terrible time management in my case. So I needed to figure out the difference. And I think I have.
I love that. So it looks like Pio dipped for the night. He said that he's got to head out early. Watched with my girlfriend tonight, who's also a singer-songwriter. And Sam, we both love your story and energy. So they were stoked to be able to be here. And then I saw that Flame is asking, like, do you have a favorite cereal? And mentioned that you have a 6-pack in your brain.
Yeah.
V8 on a bicycle could make a good country song, Matt.
Love. There's an Elvis quote, and he says, life is a dream with a V8 engine. That's the only reason I know the word V8 works for cars, because he said it in a quote once. A favorite cereal?
Yeah.
This is probably going to freak you guys out. I'm not even a pothead by any means, but what I'm about to tell you, you'll probably think that I was stoned when I did this. I am like, I'm a Libra. I know that people say that's not an excuse, but we're supposed to be undecided. I swear that's a thing. I can't decide, so I always buy the same 3 cereals, and I merge them into one giant bowl of just bliss.
What are the 3?
Oreo O's, Reese's Puffs, and it's either Cocoa Krispies, the Rice Krispie ones, or Cocoa Pebbles. Okay. I love chocolate. Spread my ashes in chocolate when it's my time to go. Like, I'm in. Or Captain Crunch. I don't know why it belongs separately, but like that one's okay with me.
It's funny. I love Reese's Puffs. And like Kristen's laughing.
Did you just hear her?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Which part were you laughing at? She's like, I don't know if I should talk again or whatever. I don't even know. Maybe she wasn't even laughing at us. I don't know. But
like, girl, I know that feeling of being stoned and having way too much cereal. I'm like, I literally will be dead sober 2:00 in the afternoon. And I get the biggest bowl I can find in my house. I do like almond milk. I'm not like necessarily dairy free, but
I was laughing at the part that said spread my ashes in chocolate.
Spread my ashes in chocolate. Yeah.
No, I really mean it.
Dude, that's amazing. And so, I mean, trying to back to the questions. I'm glad. I'm like, holy shit, I really want Captain Crunch right now. Like specifically, like, and I'd be down with like Oops All Berries, but there's something about those little squares that I'm just obsessed with.
That's it.
But so oh, I asked that question already. Okay, when did the record deal ended up happening, and that was through Shane McAnally and Monument Records, which is a partnership with Sony.
Yeah.
What changed in your process, or did anything change?
So far, no, because after I wrote Pill for this and nobody wanted it, I toyed with the idea that it would be mine, and then it got on Songland, and it was basically, spoiler if anybody watches the episode, it basically came back to me, which further confirmed that weird feeling in my chest, like something about this just feels like it's just my story to tell. And the other thing that I should add is when I was on Songland, I never told them what the song was about. They truly just liked it. So when I went on into the floor to talk to everybody, Esther Dean made a joke and was like, Charlie, this girl went to college and you didn't like wife her up, and like smacked him on the shoulder and was like really messing with him. and it was so funny because she goes, you're so cute. Are you married? And I was like, for some reason, I don't know why, but like when people ask me if I'm married, I get like so freaked out and I don't know why. And I go, oh girl, just word vomited. And I was like, oh no, once you hear the song, you'll know why I'm not married. And they were like, well, what's it about? And I was like, oh my God, Sam, you're on national television and you're about to tell the world everything. And I said, well, my ex-boyfriend of 2 years got engaged to my ex-best friend. She picked out all my Christmas gifts and all my birthday presents. And, I cried on her couch during the breakup, and they wound up falling in love. And I found out by accidentally checking Instagram during LA traffic on my way to a session. And I wrote a song, and I was like, I've literally found somebody better at that point. I just want to stop thinking about them. So I wrote this song. It's like, you're hungover, you can take Advil, Sudafed if you can't breathe through your nose. Insert whatever medication here. I was like, there's no pill for heartbreak. But I didn't even know that would be the title of the song. Anyway, long story super long. They tell me that song's mine and it's my story to tell. And Charlie Puth says off camera, please trust me. I think my fans are going to hate me for not picking you. And I think they're going to follow you. And I think you should release music and take this as like your catalyst to just roll with it. So that's kind of what I did before I thought anything about an artist project. I just kept saying to myself, people might want to know more about this. So I started thinking about like that version of myself that was a little heartbroken, and I wrote a bunch of songs. Songland came out and people were messaging me asking for more. So I kept going off that moment. And so the songs that happened kind of all were created before my final contract with Monument. So this EP was written really between 2017 and 2019 and couldn't come out until the end of 2020 because we kept waiting for the pandemic to be over. So I'm now in this new section where it's going to be like, hey, Shane is going to like come in on things and we're going to executive produce stuff. I know that there's a way that the music business works, and it's amazing to be like a really heavily streamed artist, and there's a lane for everybody. But for me, I just have always wanted to be a legacy artist. And I've always just wanted like every song and everything I do to feel really intentional. I want Grammys, even though I know that some people say they don't matter. It's just like, I have my checklist of things I want. So that was a moment. And now I'm excited to see what happens next, because I feel like there's a whole new team, because I don't know what it's going to be like yet. And I'm excited for that reason. Minus 2020, but we'll get there, we'll eventually.
Oh yeah. We're all, I think it's all those like what ifs and that uncertainty that everybody's having to sort of deal with at the moment. I guess like with that, like what are your in your mind, like what are your plans and goals besides the Grammy stuff, like for the next year? Like, let's just shrink it down to this year. Like, what are your goals for like this year?
Yeah. I am definitely humble enough to know that there's no Grammy coming for me soon. I need to earn that. And that's okay. I have an idea of like I titled albums in my head already for like the next couple. I just have always thought of projects. I think of life in projects and music videos. That's also kind of why I always knew I wanted to be an artist. The goal in the next year would probably be, if the world resumes, if the world can go somewhat back to normal, I want to tour so badly. If you could put me in a suitcase for the rest of my life, I would do it. I would play a show every day if I could. I've never really gotten that experience. So the idea is to hopefully play shows. And if that can't happen, I'm already actively working on more music. So depending on the state of the world, which I think everyone can relate to this if you're creators, the idea of putting it out an album right now, for me, I don't think makes sense. I think it should be a single basis where I'm just, hey, people are listening, people care. you can't expect them to dive into this. I want to just put a song out every 6 to 8 weeks if I can, once we start moving again. And that's what I've been working on right now, just releasing more music, hopefully touring, and that would be enough for me. I was supposed to go to radio, but I mean, 2020 kind of squashed that. So maybe it can come and happen again. We'll see.
No, I mean, you know, that's the thing, is it's like you make all these plans and then you kind of have to have the flexibility to change them always. Yeah. But especially during this time, it's like you're basically being asked to like have more flexibility than ever. It looks like Flame Switch Up CV. There you go. They're talking about like the Grammy being rigged. Jacob Collier's were justified though. That guy's not.
He's crazy good. I didn't actually listen yet. I just heard he did everything himself. No, I always find that really, really admirable.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing. I randomly got to meet Jacob Collier through YouTube was doing this like music program, and we went to San Bruno where they have like their headquarters for music stuff. They basically invited a bunch of artists to like help them make their like product better. And we spent like, they flew us out and like we hung out for like a week with all these artists, and Jacob Collier was one of them. Young Gravy was one of them too, which I don't know if y'all know Young Gravy, but it was like the weirdest mix of artists ever. Like I think Toki Monsta was there too. Like it was like this really interesting group of people, like all in like the YouTube building. And I'm like, there's food on the table. It looks really good. And they're like, oh yeah, you just take it. It's just for people to like, when you pass by, you just take food. Like that's so weird to think about so right now.
Yeah.
But,
oh, you're good.
Yeah. Like, oh, food that's just been left out. Like, I'm just going to eat that. Like,
that's my favorite part about writing camps. They had one for a boy band and they literally catered for 3 straight days with In-N-Out burger.
Was it Why Don't We?
Yeah. As you know it. And then I did one for, I mean, like, I feel like name dropping the artist is like so LA, but then there was another one for another artist and it was like the most incredible, like, I don't know if it's Mendocino Farms or Mendocino Farms. I'm like, no idea that Italian, but
probably both. Tomato, whatever.
Yeah. So it's like, there's just amazing sandwiches. And it's just been like, whenever the camps happen, I'm like, man, I hope I get a cut, but I just hope they like me enough to keep bringing me back just enough. Cause I just want the food. I'm like, that's the, I'm like, I'll be on any panel. If you feed me and you cater it, say less. I'm there.
and it's all about, and it all comes back to food, y'all. So, I mean, I guess as we're wrapping up the interview, and I really don't want to, because I want to just like keep asking a million questions, but I know.
Take me to dinner when this is over. We'll just keep hanging. I'll see Kristen and be like, what'd you?
No, I love it. So I guess, is there any advice that you would give to someone watching this beyond the advice, the plenty of advice and all of the awesome tidbits that you have given throughout this entire stream so far? Is there any advice that you would give to someone watching the stream that wants to get into a creative field or is like currently on that journey right now? I guess those things that you know, those quotes that you shared from people that you wish you knew when you had started, like what are those things now that, like, beyond even those quotes, that you would tell your 15-year-old self that's hiding all those songs?
And I do hope I gave good advice, because sometimes I feel like I do talk a lot, and I hope there's enough. So thank you for saying that. And thank you again for having me so much. I will say, I always give this advice, and I think it's just something that I wish somebody told me, is I think it's important, if you are a creator, you can't be too swayed by the music that's out right now. I think it's important to be inspired, but I think it's really, really important to know what you want to say and making music that you want to make, not what you think you need to make or what you think you have to make. Because if you chase a sound or a trend, you'll be chasing forever. That's why the word chase is in there. I mean, you'll just be running for the rest of your life, never spending the time to see who you are. So I guess if you are a creator, you are born with this little flame inside of you. I mean, I've just always believed this, and I tell this to anyone I talk to. And maybe people have said this before, but I'd like to believe I made it up. I just think if you have that in you, there's a little fire inside of you, and it's tiny, and you grow it depending on how much you want to tap in. But if you're not too careful, you get really flooded by these opinions, and all that flood of information is just going to water down that spark that makes you you. And that's been me for the last few years, where I go through these waves of ideas and then what I think I have to do. And spend time with yourself. The only way to grow that flame is to get inspired and then turn off the noise. Put your effing phone away, you know, set a time limit for your Instagram, read some books, watch TV sometimes for inspo. Just spend time alone with yourself. I wish I got to know myself sooner. I really do. Maybe that's probably a song. I'll write it eventually, but
maybe
I
tomorrow.
really mean that. Yeah, there you go. Hey, I just feel like that's really important. And so spend time with yourself, figure out what you want to say, because if you get too much information, there's such a thing as they say, the more you know, the less you're whole, right? So just be really mindful of that, because I think you have to make music that you need. The only reason I started writing songs was because I started writing these poems about my thoughts. And then when they became songs, I had plenty of things to listen to when I got my heart broken or when someone passed away. But there was just these little moments that weren't quite said that I felt like, wow, if I feel this way and I can write this, you can write this, and you're watching this and you can write music. Someone somewhere is feeling exactly how you're feeling. And if you don't feel there's a song for that yet, they probably feel the same way. And I just think that there's such a magical feeling in knowing that. And for that, I think tap in, lean in, spend time alone, shut out the noise, and just, you're going to get it wrong a lot. I still am. Everything I release, I'm like, I hope, focus on just knowing it's enough. It doesn't matter if a million people like it, how many streams it gets. If you 10 years from now are going to be proud of that music, then you fucking put it out. Sorry if there's kids on here. Well, no.
Oh no, we put a parental advisory on this whole thing. There's been enough stuff said that we have to do it.
Cursing. They're cussing on this app either way. Their parents don't know. That's okay.
Oh, they're in between their slime videos. They're watching some pretty fucked up stuff.
Oh yeah. But I just think that's important, you know, like how cool is it to know that you will never meet every person in the world, but there's a chance that there are strangers you will never be able to meet in your life, but they are hearing your music. So in a way you are. Like someone's going to lose a family member, and for all I know, will be the person that held their hand through that whole process, and they've never met me in their life. Someone's going to get their first kiss, go through their first heartbreak. That's a huge amount of responsibility, but it's also really amazing. But there's a line.
They might be driving to Boston.
They could be driving to Boston. Like, look at, oh God, I would die for John Mayer. I love him. But I just think that is so cool. I think about what his music did for me all these years. No matter what app I go on, they're always like, you're artist of the decade, you're artist of the year, John Mayer. And I'm just like, duh, you know, but I just think that there's a magic to it, but there's a line, you know, the stress and the coolness of it is one thing. Just get back to the music. If the music is good, the team comes, the fans come, everything comes. Just make your art and just spend time to make sure it's your art and nobody else's.
I mean, I don't even know how to respond, because it was awesome. Somebody was like saying, basically, am I the only one who is realizing that she's a poetic speaker? Every other sentence sounds like a lyric. So clearly you come off as a writer to a lot of the people that are in the chat.
Hell yeah.
And everybody seems to be relating with the whole having to figure out how to spend time with yourself and everything like that.
It's hard. It is. And think about it, like little kid you, at this point, if anybody's on this thread and need to be 18 or older, like you're saying, we didn't really know about crazy social media. Like even when you're 5 years old, even right now, even if with what's available, little 5-year-old kids still don't have Instagram. Try to remember that when you knew you couldn't fail and you had to you had to use your imagination. What would happen if that was you right now? Like if you didn't have to do this for a living and you weren't making money, if 8-year-old Sam was on this podcast or whatever, what would I say? Or this Twitch? I don't even know what it's called or what it is.
It'd probably be a lot of like, hey, Sam, can you come back to the screen and everything?
Yeah,
it's like what I imagine like teachers have to go through every day.
Yeah, I'd probably be downstairs eating and getting in so much trouble for changing the subject too much, which still happens.
Reese's Puffs, Oreos, or Oreos and
Oreos
and the Cookie Crisps? No, the Cocoa Krispies.
You can do that too. It also applies. I've done that too. Depends on what's available. But chocolate.
I love it. So, I mean, and on the tip of just being inspired and everything, like what current songs and current artists are inspiring you right now? Maybe not like forming what you're going to do, because you said you should be inspired by it and everything like that, but like what are those artists for you right now?
Well, Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License just made me want to call every ex-boyfriend I've ever had in my life, and I love it. I think that song is just like, it's really incredible to see somebody so young pretty much do 100% of it. It's amazing. I love the stuff that JP Sachs puts out. I just think he's so conversational, but also he's incredibly musical. And if you really listen, you know that he's a player, and he, like, as far as keys go, he's just so, I think it's really cool that he's able to have so much knowledge and still create pop music. I think it's amazing. And I'm trying to think of somebody else who I love every genre. I love Dan and Shay. I just enamored by them. I think they're incredible. And he makes me want to practice every vocal run and just be a better singer. I kind of like I've really gone across a whole landscape here, but that really is where my brain goes. I love JP Sachs. I love that little 17-year-old girl who I think is just a star. And I love some of the recent country stuff that I hear, because it kind of leans a little more melodic and pop feely to me.
I love that. Well, I mean, Sam, thank you again for doing this. I know that you have to balance a bunch of things in your life and everything like that. And this is something that you absolutely do not have to do. So again, it means a lot that you would do this and have this conversation with me and with the community. And I know that not only do I appreciate it, but I know everybody else here appreciates it, and everybody who's going to be watching after the fact is going to appreciate it as well. But I dropped Sam DeRosa. You guys should absolutely give her a follow on socials. Check out her EP that is out, and expect a lot more music coming from her, not only through her artist stuff, but also through just like the artists who are going to be lucky enough to cut your songs and put them out in the world and soundtrack. Even maybe that kiss with a girl for once for you, Switch Up CB. I know that you were trolling, but like, as you said, but I'm going to point that out. We'll have Sam DeRosa will soundtrack it. No, he sometimes he likes to. I think on that point we were talking about like spending time alone and soundtrack and everything like that. So. I told him, I was like, we love you for it, and that he's helping keep us young. So yes. Because it's something like sometimes that level of sarcasm that comes with trolling like can go over my head. So I appreciate the art that goes into it. Honestly,
it's such an art. I need to learn it. I just try to say it's impossible to offend me. I'm just gonna laugh at everything, and then I'm okay.
Man. Well, so and you said you haven't spent much time with Twitch, right? You kind of know it as like a gaming platform and everything.
This is my first time actually on it, but most of my friends who have it use it for gaming. But I know that it's amazing for live streams like this, and that they can live on. And it's been really cool to see people writing and just like saying stuff and how engaged it is. It's really cool.
Dope. So there's another cool function that I love, and that is called rating. So what we're going to do, what you're going to see on the screen over there in a second, is we basically, rating is a function where all of the viewers who are currently on the stream, we go and support typically another music stream. We try to go and support like a singer who's on there, mm-hmm. and somebody who is like just starting out or something like that, mm-hmm. and try to like hype them up and like show them some love for the like thing that they're creating at the moment. So
love that.
If you look at your screen, you should see that now, like what it looks like. So we've got everything from the very self-important Anthony Fantano from the Needle Drop with his signature glasses and his tank tops. He's like Steve Jobs if you put Steve Jobs in a tank top, gave him glasses and strong opinions about music. That's Anthony Fantano.
Love.
If that's for you, definitely recommend that you go check it out. But what we're going to do is we're going to search singing, and you're going to help us pick the singer that we're going to raid.
Okay.
And that is the part of the stream that we were on. So we actually rated Amelia Rose on Wednesday. I'm actually going to click on her just to kind of show you, because we were surprised. We're going to mute that because this dance is everywhere right now. This is TikTok. How many? I'm really curious to see the mix of TikTok and the Super Bowl this year. That's going to be something really fascinating.
Oh yeah.
So.
Okay, so I type singing. Oh, no. Right, is that what I'm doing?
So what I'll do is I'll share the audio so you can actually hear what's going on in real time.
Froggy is literally me anytime you sing Honeybee.
Hold on, let's share. Whoops.
I vibe when I sing Honeybee. I'm always like.
Cool. You should be able to hear her now.
Yep.
Dope. So we found her on our last stream, but just to give you like an example of somebody that we've rated.
This is called "It Holds Me to the Bottom of a Heavy Pool." This is out on like Spotify and iTunes and all the things. If you want to check it out, here's the link. If you want to check out any of those links, they're all very helpful to me and my little stream. So go check it. Okay, this is what it sounds like. It's about mental health and anxiety.
Oh no, I lost you.
Me?
It's so weird. Hold on 1 second. Why is it doing that? Okay, now you're back. That was weird.
Your infiltrates somehow a villain with sweeter traits. Someone should tell me, someone should tell me, someone should tell me.
So she was somebody that we had rated on Wednesday. So we're not going to do that again. We will eventually, but we try to go and like find somebody new each time that we go out. So is there anything like looking at the stream right now? Like, is there anything that looks interesting to you that you want me to click on? Like, and we'll check out what that sounds like.
I'm looking at these names.
Yeah, a lot of times I like going either by the name or what the stream looks like, or
Yeah.
the
It's so
like,
interesting. This is where we talk about marketing, right? Like, how did you brand your stream? Okay, so I am looking at what's Formal Friday, the guy in the suit. Let me see this guy.
Formal Friday. Okay, let's go check this out.
He's in like a little tux.
How are you guys?
Oh, he's doing Unaware.
Yes. Hey.
Okay, come on, don't let us down. I mean, this is a ballsy song to have to pick, you know?
Yes.
Every day, deficit grows. You spend more than you own. But her way said to me,
It's gonna be that first Unaware for me that I think sells it.
keep a close eye on your authority. You say that you care.
Okay.
I was unaware.
Bringing a more chill vibe.
You say that you care.
All right, that seems like that could potentially be an option. Let's see who else. Is there anything else? Let's look at this next batch right here. Do you see? We've rated this stream with the washboard and keys in the past. They were super nice.
This is like busker alley. I know busking from being at school, and that just made me LOL.
Really?
LOL, because busking is like when you play on the street, and everybody did it at school in Boston. Okay, I'm looking at super chill Friday music, singing song, someone with glasses and a sweater on the left.
Okay, I see that.
Green sweater. Okay.
We'll see how this one goes.
We will.
This is for Sarah, who must still be here. Just sticks
Sarah.
that little request in every so often. So great. I love it.
I enjoy gaming, playing music, and singing. I have been playing music since I was a small child and would love to share it with others.
All right.
I don't know why I'm talking like that. I am excited to make new friends and get to know all of you as we travel through the world of music and games.
She's about to play WAP, somebody wrote.
Oh my god. Dude, somebody asked me to do the dance, we were talking about commands, and they're like, you should do the WAP. I was like, that nobody wants to see that happen. But I'm gonna try.
I can teach you. I actually know it.
You do know it?
I taught 3. I'm in a house with friends right this week.
Hold on, I have to mute this. What?
Oh. She's a vibe too. I like the hat. I said I'm in a house with my friends. Like, we're just like making music, and everyone just kind of like needed to. By the way, we all unfortunately got COVID, so we're all checked and we're immune, so we can't get it or spread it currently. So me and my like 4 friends who I like creating with, we all went in a house and we're just having wine. And somehow it came up, and I was like, oh, I know this dance because I've seen all the. So I taught everybody last night, even the men. Every single person was doing the WAP last night. It was pretty. I'm like, to know that I could be now considered a choreographer is pretty
Dude, I mean, we talked about all the things that you learned during COVID. I mean, there's that counts.
That's
I
one.
think, yeah. All right, let's try. Let's give another one a shot, and then we'll pick between the three that we picked. So, let's see. Is there another stream that looks interesting to you? Let's move.
Empaths Unite. The girl that's kind of gray.
Oh,
Empaths Unite.
Okay, well, that's funny that you picked this person. So we've rated this person in the past and really enjoy her stream. She's got a really great voice, and the best, honestly, my favorite part of it, I'm going to claim my bonus here. My favorite part of it is that you can actually redeem your points to have her pet the dog's butt watch. Okay, so doggo butt scratch. Oh, I don't have enough points. Doggo butt scratch for raid.
Oh wait, that's so funny.
How's the sound? It sounds crazy in my headphones. It sounds real like
It's
piano.
great.
I don't have enough points.
I see trees of green.
But she's got a really great voice. She hasn't played a ton of original material. It looks like she's got like, you can see the cue kind of at the top left. And it looks like one of her songs. It's going to be What a Wonderful World, and then Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Sunday Morning, and then her own song. I'm just like waiting for her to notice like what we said in the chat. Chris is broke. I am broke, Cyclone. Help me earn points. But I'm really hoping that the potential of doing a raid Duggo butt scratch has to be redeemed. I know, but I'm broke.
The dark sacred
I don't feel like arguing with this person. I want her to recognize the value of this raid, and then she'll scratch the butt. Kristen and I call them cratches, so we skip the word S. This is like Twitch Inception. It is Twitch Inception. We're watching Twitch together. Yeah, I need to be paying attention or I'll get in trouble with the neighbors.
This is peak negotiations. So much.
So okay, you got the sense of all three streams. You don't have to pick this person. Feel no pressure. It's just funny that you picked someone. If you liked the other two streams better, we could do that. You pick. You get to pick since you're the guest.
I think she's my favorite. I love her alto tone. She's going deep. Nice.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we are gonna go and raid our friend Ariana. So let me make sure I write this out. Dude, if she does, you should hear her do Adele. It's really good. I heard her do Water Under the Bridge the other day, and it was incredible. All right. So what's gonna happen now? If you look at your screen, is it's going to show up that we're getting ready to raid. We're getting ready to raid in 5 seconds. Thank you guys for being here. This has been our Friday night stream. Our guest, Sam DeRosa, has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful guest. And I'm so glad that you were here. Everybody go crazy in the chat for Ariana. Drop hell yes. Drop whatever you want. Say Sam DeRosa sent us. Say Voices Chris sent us. Whatever you want to say. Just make sure that we get that doggo butt scratch, because look at how much that doggo deserves to be scratched right now. Like in a very nice,
does. Look at him just sitting there.
Nice way. So drop that because your boy is broke. All right, guys. See you on Monday. Peace out. Hell yes. Love you guys.